Good day, listeners. I'm excited to welcome you to the maiden edition of our program for this quarter titled Strategy Change Implementation in Action. On Amoge Radio Communications, I am your host, Titilola Ogushono. Last quarter, we looked at principles for effective change leadership. We considered issues like culture and organizational leadership. We looked further into organizational culture diagnosis. We looked at the tools, the tactics, the strategies for improving organizational culture. We looked at leadership skills needed for building the right culture. We looked at culture audit tools, among other issues. But this quarter, we'll be delving into how to implement strategic change. We'll be reviewing those critical components that should be in place in an organization for effective implementation of strategic plans, goals, and objectives. Now, what you see is organization more often than not pursue strategic change in either to gain competitive edge in the market, or sometimes they implement strategic change as a response strategy to the dynamics, to changes either in the market, the global space, the industry, or even the economy at large. So in implementing this strategic change, organizations might have to go through some phases of change process, which could involve 1, 2, 3, or even a combination of all of these processes that we talk about. Now, when we talk about the competitive edge, well, I've been referring to the private sector. However, for the public sector, some other issues could come aboard. Some issues like how do we attract the right talent? Now, talent attraction is not even as critical as talent retention. You have attracted those talents. How do you attract them? Now, for you to retain talent, you'll be looking at issues like motivation of talent. How do you keep them motivated? How do you get them engaged so that you can retain them within the public sector? This is one of the critical issues that the public sector would have to grapple with. Okay, so like I said, in implementing strategic change, organization might have to go through some phases of change processes, and I said it could involve different stages, 1, 2, or 3 of these processes. But I'm going to start with the issue of restructuring of the organization. Now, in reality, in coming down to change implementation, you have your strategic plans, the objective, you have the goals already, well stated out in paper. But it's not going to be a standalone. Now, in implementing strategic change in an organization, more often than not, be it the NGO, be it the public space, the public sector, or the private sector, one thing that you need to do, like I mentioned, is restructuring of the organization. What do I mean? Now, in implementing this strategic plan, a change manager might have to look inwards and look at those aspects of the firm, organization, that might need to be organized. Now, the goal, objective, most times of your business process, your structure, is usually to increase the level of efficiency. That is, you want to operate at optimal capacity. Also want to reduce or eliminate, if you cannot reduce or eliminate totally, unnecessary waste. Because when you reduce your level of waste, unnecessary waste, when you can eliminate this and you can operate at optimal capacity, this is really going to improve your level of profitability as a firm. So you want to look at implementing change. You need to look at your present structure as an organization. Will it sustain this change you are bringing on board? Now, when I talk about restructuring, what am I saying? You could involve restructuring of departments or various units. That's why I see some organizations will say, look, let's collapse some units together. Some will say, okay, we need to create a particular unit in order to achieve this strategic objective. You see some people come and look, there are even some organizations proud to now that will not even have any unit for strategy. Now, because we want to implement this, look, we need a team that will just focus on strategy, looking at baselines of what before implementing this strategy, what are we doing in this aspect in terms of profitability, in terms of cost reduction, and you're not monitoring and measuring your progress along the line. So restructuring of the organization might be necessary more often than not. I would not say might, is usually necessary, okay? But you need to do a diagnosis of organization to know at what point you need that intervention, okay? Sometimes even the organogram, you could look at it and saying that the level of hierarchy in your organization will distort decision making, will delay decision making. And if you see that as a bottleneck, you want to revisit your organogram. That is restructuring of organization. Okay, so if you are going to talk about implementing change, you need to look at your present structure. Would you sustain? Is your present structure flexible enough to adapt, to accommodate the implementation of the change plan? Okay, now the second thing I'm going to speak into is re-engineering. Now, in reality, again, what I've seen across sectors is that sometimes strategic change implementation could involve re-engineering process. When I say re-engineering, I'm speaking to, the need sometimes for you to redesign your business processes and related systems to improve the level of performance of your organization. Okay, when you talk about business processes, I'm looking at those tasks in organization that are actually crucial to achieving your organizational goals. Okay, so out of the tasks in organization, your processes in terms of delivering service, even to your customers, what are those tasks that are very crucial? Now, I know that every task is important, every role is important in organization, but the truth is some tasks are pivotal, play very crucial role in achieving those set objectives. So you need to look at that. I might need to look at it and look at a business process. You need to remodel, you might need to reshape, you might need to revise, and the case may be all of these models in order to give delivering optimally and efficiently to your customers. Now, it also could involve redesigning your strategies. In fact, re-engineering could even look at your technological structure, your state of technology in the organization, and I say, look, we need to re-engineer this IT department so that it can be strategic, play that strategic role in achieving your change plan. Okay, so it's really important. And even sometimes when you talk about re-engineering, when you're not talking about technology, you are also speaking to those major elements of your cultural practices in an organization. Okay, now we spoke a lot to culture in the last quarter, and this quarter you realize that culture is very crucial, it's very important. So for some organization, okay, the cultural practice could be so much on individualism. It's so much on you as an individual. Now, for this change process, you are implementing a change agenda. Now, there might be a need from that shift of the focus on individuals to that of more of teamwork, could that have more of collaborations. So that means you are going to look at your culture. There'll be a total overhauling of your cultural practices. So re-engineering process involves all of these things as an organization. Okay, now I'm going to speak to the third process that we might need to look at in terms of implementing your change. Innovation. With the ever-changing business environment and the ever-revolving needs of customers, realize that implementation of new strategy plans could involve the need to deploy the skills of the workforce and your resources to produce innovative products or even deliver services in more efficient, innovative ways. Whether you like it or not, you can't take away the need to innovate because the needs of clients are diverse, the customers are more informed. So it means that as an organization, you are going to implement a new plan. You really need to be innovative. You need to be creative. And be innovative cuts across product industry and service industries. Because now the customer, in terms of product, you want quality. In terms of product, you want the product to be reliable. You want it to be durable. These are that different expectations from customers. Now, in terms of service, timeliness is very key. Now, some people talk about affordability, but for some customers, it's about accessibility. How fast can I have access to your service? So time is of essence. For some people, it's flexibility. So when you're implementing a change process, okay, you are implementing a change plan, a change agenda. Now, for you to be able to implement it effectively, you have to look at these things, and these are very crucial processes. Okay. Now, when you talk about innovation, why some organizations will see innovation as being expensive and say, look, do you want to be innovative? It has, a lot of cost implication. How we say whether I like it or not, we need to evolve. Our tastes have changed. The demands of the environment is changing, so you can't afford to be static. Okay. Now, most times when you look at innovation, it involves huge investment in research and development programs. Okay. And now you know that the way you keep innovating, before you get to where you say you are satisfied in terms of quality of output, in terms of the cost element, it comes, with financial implication. What do I mean? Sometimes when you want to test new ideas, there's ideas are not the light of the day. So there's a cost implication to it. However, you cannot allow those cost implications or the fear of failure to deter you or prevent you from creating an innovative environment. Now, huge investment in research and development program I've mentioned. Now, there are also inherent risk elements. So if you are going to implement any change agenda, you have to, be proactive to look at it technically to say what are the risk elements in this change program. It's very well, because in the long run, despite the fear of failure, the cost implication, of failed tests, of new ideas, of the tests that would fail, despite the inherent risk element, despite the huge investment in research and development programs, in the long run, the benefits of being innovative, the benefits of being creative, the benefits of re-engineering your business processes are very enormous. Very enormous. And for the sustainability of any organization, and if your focus is on being sustainable over time, it's better you start checking this process with your business president, business structure. Enable the change agenda. Do you need to put in your re-engineering cap? Put it on re-engineering of your business processes, technology, state, culture to support this change agenda. And again, to what extent do you have to innovative and creative as an organization? Okay, thank you so much. If you are just joining us, here's the maiden edition of our program, Strategy Change Implementation in Action, on Amagate Radio Communication. I'm still your host, Titilola Ogunshono. Okay, now to effectively implement strategic change in organization, okay, as a strategy change manager, one needs to take some very critical steps. And the first one I'm going to say is that, look, let's even get down. I want to implement this change idea. Where do I start from? Is it a bottom-down approach? Is it a bottom-up, bottom-top approach? Do you have to do it horizontally? Do you have to come in from middle level? Where should be the starting point? That's a big question that change managers grapple with every day. Now, I would say that the starting point for you in implementing the change agenda is, one, you need to get the buy-in of all stakeholders. Now, when I say stakeholders, I'm saying that you must get the buy-in of everyone who has a stake, an interest in your organization. You are going to sit down before you can implement any strategic plan. You must identify all the relevant stakeholders in the organization. You need to know their varying interests. You need to understand how the change would affect them. That's reality. In an organization, we say that we have internal stakeholders, we have external stakeholders. Your internal stakeholders are your shareholders that have financial interest, part holding of the organization. We also have your employees, okay? Then you also have the customers, you have the external, you have the suppliers, you have government. Okay, we have even the community where your organization is operating. So you realize that you need to proactively look at your relevant stakeholders, those that will be affected. They have a stake, they have an interest. They will be affected either directly or indirectly, by your policies. So you have to look at it. When you identify who your stakeholders are, you understand what their very interests are. Now, the interest of a customer, okay, is to get quality service or product from you. Timeliness is important to them. Okay, now it's actually going to be different from the interest of an employee. An employee wants stability, they want reliability of income. So that very interest, and it's going to be different from the interest of your suppliers. Okay, they know that once you are in existence, they're going to be having business, continued business from you. So now, if you are going to introduce a policy in terms of, okay, the new change agenda will affect your credit sales. Now, you need to carry them along. If your new, agenda is going to even affect pricing, you need to carry your customers along. So these are things that you need to review. Otherwise, whatever change agenda you want to implement might actually be dead on forever, because these are people that have what it takes to frustrate your agenda. Okay, so now you need to look at it carefully. You may be able to, because when you look at it, how they will be affected. Now you need to even understand that pain point. When you bring up a new change agenda, what happens sometimes is that it might disrupt their own existing business process. Because if you have suppliers, for instance, they have that internal business process. So you must articulate and proactively look at what their existing business processes, how the existing business processes would be affected by your change plan. Okay, so it's better. So when you carefully articulate all of this, it enables you as a change leader, as a change agent, enables you to draw up an effective plan on how to communicate the change to them. Now, you communicate the change then, inculcating, accommodating all their interests and fears. So, and this brings us to what I would say, coming up with an appropriate corporate communication strategy. Yeah, for organization, you must have a corporate communication strategy. This helps to reduce, if not eliminate, at least reduce unnecessary resistance to change. Communicating to them through appropriate channels, giving them the right message, you give them the assurance that they are valued. And when your stakeholders, both internal and external, feel valued, okay, you are going to have earned their trust because they feel they are heard, they feel included, they feel respected, and because they feel respected, valued, you will get their buy-in. That's the truth, you get their buy-in because every stakeholder have their fears, every stakeholder have their interests, and because they're genuinely concerned about you, the way you communicate to them really matters. Okay, I read an article on Toyota production system, and there was this culture they introduced, which I like, and the culture, what they call is culture that's laying the foundation. Now, what they do is this: before implementing any change, what they look at all the key information. There is no ambiguity. Their communication is always clear. So they look at all the important information about the change implemented project. And what they do is that once they have articulated all the important means that they look at all the various stakeholders, they look at and they communicate it with other employees. All the key information. Now, it's not just even communicating, they go a step further to communicate to them. They get their agreement, they get consensus is obtained, and also feedback from them. Now, because whether I like it or not, if you do not get their feedback, you can come up with the appropriate strategy on how to get their buy-in. You need to listen to them. You need to hear them. You need feedback from them. It's so important. Okay, so we'll take a short break now. We'll continue while we're back. Okay, thank you so much. If you are just joining us, we are still on the maiden edition of our program for this quarter, Strategy Change Implementation in Action. And I'm still your host, Titilola Ogunshono. Okay, I was speaking to the article on Toyota production system, talking to the culture in Toyota is laying the foundation. So the first thing they do is to get the buy-in of the employees when they're implementing any change, even before implementing. Okay, and it's so good because they inculcate all the feedback from the employees. They go back to the drawing board, and this has always been very effective. Okay, laying the foundation. So my question for you as a change leader today is, do you have a communication strategy? How important do you think the communication strategy is? How effective has your communication strategy been? Okay, we'll be looking what are the key critical components of your communication strategy. How relevant is it? Or how relevant are those key critical components to the expectations, to the interest of your stakeholders? Okay, so in the next episode, we'll be looking more into stakeholders engagement. How do you engage your stakeholders? And one tool you are going to be needing to engage them in order for you to effectively implement your strategy, change strategy agenda. It's very important to get that buy-in. We're looking for that one tool I can use. We'll be speaking to now, engaging them, your communication strategy. We'll be looking more into these issues in our next episode. For feedback, comments, or questions, can you send a mail to our email, contact@thearmorgate.org. I'll take it again. For feedback, comments, questions, can you send a mail to our mailbox, contact@thearmorgate.org. Thank you. Please, if you have enjoyed the program, learned one or two things, kindly click on the like button. Okay, so thank you so much for staying to the end of the program. I look forward to having you same time, same station next week. I remain your host, Titilola Ogushona, saying bye from here.